Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today, we are going to speak with Federico, who is the co-founder and creator of Faraday, which is open source vulnerability management tooling. So if you are in security, if you are in application security, or in general, if you are in any side of the tech, it's definitely you're gonna deal with in some of the security, and it's really nice to get familiar, to have at least good understanding for these kind of tools, especially open source project, which is started in 2013. It's really amazing. Federico today joining us from the Argentina. Is it correct? Buenos Aires.
Yeah, that's correct, Suko. So I'm currently in Buenos Aires. It's winter over here, and as I talked with Suko a couple of weeks ago, open source communities are at my heart. I truly believe that we can build things together. In my case, I focus in security for the past 20 years,
Wow.
and I also create a community in Latin America called Eco Party, which is the largest hacker conference in Latin America. So I truly believe in the power of communities, and I love to be here. So thanks, Suko, for inviting me, and thank you everyone for attending us Saturday.
Yeah, it's really amazing when I saw our audience all over the world. It's really amazing, and definitely we are looking more for collaboration with Federico in next chapters. I think that's going to be the good start. So let's roll it.
Yeah, sure. I'm going to, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, so we have a couple intro slides. So sorry folks, we may run 5-10 minutes late. Hopefully you can be good with time. In case if you need to leave earlier, feel free, you can check recording after. So we're gonna do some fun chit chat, and then I will pass to Federico, and then we're gonna have short break, Q&A, and we will wrap it up. So, and quickly about this chapter, we run our webinars as chapters. So and each chapter has 10 sessions. We are going to finalize this chapter next week. So we have left 2 sessions, and then we're gonna meet with our speakers again, and like folks who actively join, and we will try to recognize and bring them some visibility and recognition and thanks. So it's gonna be another probably session in a couple of weeks. And briefly about me, I am Sako. Currently, I work for a company called OpenGov as a DevOps engineer. And about Metabob, which is this chapter's collaborator and co-host, and it's AI-based code reviewer. And about GoUp, you know, it's open source accelerator. So let's do the chit chat, and we're gonna switch to our chit chat. So for that, let's post the link to our Jamboard, and hopefully you guys can see it. Yeah. So in the Jamboard, please write down what you would like to learn and what questions you have. At the same time, we're gonna have, yeah, I see we have folks joining. What you would like to learn.
How about you, Sako? What are you looking forward to learn from today?
Yeah, I think it will be more also how it's going to be in the cloud environment. And because we have AWS Inspector, the tooling, we have container vulnerability management tools, and how it's going to add, what's going to be the difference, and more from this backed up, this vulnerability management tooling, how.
Definitely. I'll cover a little bit of how tooling will create security faults and where are we heading. I think, especially since COVID, we are seeing that the need for talent and in technology, it's super big and it's super hungry, and that can translate all around the planet. But it's also important to create time. So everything that we're going to discuss a little bit, it's how we can automate. Why are we creating this technology? What's the philosophy behind it? So definitely I'll cover a little bit of how this impacts cloud security and how cloud security is done and where I think we're heading. So definitely
Yep.
we're going to cover that. Okay, a lot of questions. That's awesome.
Yep. I think mine one was canceled.
They don't want you to.
Somebody deleted it probably. Okay, this time hopefully I can keep it. Awesome. So yeah, it's Federico to give you a bit better understanding that what the folks are looking for, and definitely some stuff you can cover during the presentation, and some stuff after once coming back to Q&A. Oh my God, Danner saying love the tool. Awesome.
Well, Darren's a long-time user, so he's always
nice, nice. So it's I'm not surprised.
So, do you want me to read the post-its?
No, I think we will just
We
use
cover after.
understanding. Yeah, I think yeah, if you want, you would like, you can out loud read. That's fine, and we will also start polling.
Sure. So we want to know about Faraday, about security, how to get started, a basic idea on cybersecurity. Want to understand the risk of vulnerabilities to the open source. Super interesting questions. Will impact AI, I suppose, or it's that NL to cybersecurity, especially bull management. What is security testing and how to get started, types of vulnerabilities and how to manage them. Love the questions.
Awesome, cool. I think pretty much most we can move to the next one. So, folks, we have now another interactive slide, which is called poll. So we would like to understand the audience level. So pretty much I'm gonna need to right now start the poll. Let me see if, awesome. So yeah, please feel free to measure your level. I think it will give good understanding for Federico for in general how you feel about the security. Awesome.
Yeah, take advantage. Ask me anything. I have been breaking things for a long time. So if you want to ask me how things are broken, I'll be more than happy to tell you.
Yeah. And if you can't fix it, it's fine. Just keep breaking.
Exactly.
Try harder. Awesome.
Try harder.
I think we folks. I see Aditya joined, and yeah, I think we should be good for the poll, and we can end the poll. I think 11 out of 14 folks joined and explained. Okay, cool. Let's move on. For the audience, we have pretty diverse audience. We places we haven't had probably so far. I can also say that Dominican, I saw that, and that's really nice. El Salvador, and but definitely India, Azerbaijan, and was once active, but I think Argentina now. Dominic, it's really nice to see in from South America, and it's all because of you, Federico. Appreciate to adding more diversity to the community, but looking for more folks joining. And yeah, let's see. For the code of conduct, we have very simple. We are here, learn, benefit, contribute. Obviously, no marketing, selling, competing, equality. We really take it serious. Despite your role background, you can have good salary, you can have a good role, but you should treat the folks with the same level of respect. That's the only thing we ask for. And photo shooting time, please turn your camera, and that's kind of lost our think we can ask you, and then we will pass to Federico. So I guess, Rasim, can you help me?
Yes, Sako, please stop sharing your desk, because all guys, okay, good. Guys, don't be shy and open your camera, and let's take photo. Just wait. Okay, let's be funny. Okay, one more. Okay, good.
Okay.
Good, yeah.
Thank you, folks. And yeah, Federico, I think now we can pass to you. Please go ahead.
Awesome. Give me just a second. I'm going to put my presentation on sharing, so we can start from there. Just a second. Yeah. So, okay. So let me see when you're able to see my screen. I'm going to put it on full screen. Well, can everyone see the screen right now?
Yeah.
Oh, that's perfect. So again, as taking from where Suka said, now we're living in a time of opportunity. I think technology is surrounding us in our daily basis, and I think if you're here for today, probably you want to understand a little bit what security is, how companies are doing security, and how can you actually implement part of these technologies in your daily basis. So regarding about talent, regarding about opportunities, I think with the COVID and we are seeing that we are able to work and put talent where it's needed. So for all of you who are starting, I truly believe that talent is everywhere. Sometimes we lack of opportunities. So I hope open source and communities like GOAP can create opportunities for you to get into this fascinating world of bits and bytes, and where you can do what you love and have a great impact in the people. So today we're going to talk about security, especially vuln management. I know that for many of you might be the first time talking or navigating cybersecurity, so I'll try to be brief. Please interrupt me at any time, put me questions. I'll do it a little bit faster on the technical sides, but my main point in during this presentation is to create some curiosity in you guys, so you can try the application, so you can start doing security, because security nowadays it's super important, and sometimes we leave it at the end as a cherry on the top, and sometimes it's important to think it from the start. So I'm going to start about me. I'm the CEO of Faraday. Faraday is an open source security company. We also do consulting. I have been in this since the early 2000s. As I said before, I'm the proud founder of EcoParty, which is the largest security conference in Latin America, where people from everywhere in the world comes to discuss about what's breaking, how to break it, and how to take advantage. Okay, I have one with the mic open. So anyone, to understand vuln management, we first need to understand what's a vulnerability. So as human beings, we are normally in the possibility of being attacked and harmed. Maybe you're going to the street, so you feel vulnerable. So software, it's quite similar. It's a weakness that can be leveraged or exploited by someone to take advantage. That could be the lack of validation in a form, so someone can change the price of an item, or it could be just a forgotten password exposed on a website. So vulnerabilities are, at the end of the day, a weakness over your infrastructure. So the management of those vulnerabilities allow you to manage risk, which is what at the end of the day we're trying to solve, which is can we protect our information? Can my software or my company, it's safe from third parties to messing with me? So what we are going to cover today, it's a little bit how to manage, quick tips from me if you're starting, another tips if you already have something in place. So when we talk about the internet and we talk about the footprint of companies in the internet, people in cybersecurity, we basically discuss it as attack surface, which is as many computers, software, it's being exposed, that creates a bigger attack surface, which means an attacker can have more possibilities to find something interesting to exploit, gain leverage, and possibly gain unauthorized access to that information. So the management itself, it's is this practice of trying to classify information from different sources, making a plan, doing a prioritization, and then do as the same as in development, a sprint to fix it. Bugs, and especially security bugs, are just that, are just an error that we can create because sometimes we are learning something, sometimes we are on a rush. But we have to understand that we are humans and humans make mistakes, and those mistakes may have a functionality problem or a security problem. In this case, we're going to focus in the late ones, which is when we make mistakes. So the idea of bull management, it's I'm going to know that over time, I'm going to find these problems using different tools, different methodologies, and it's in me and in my workflow, how can I manage that information to reduce the risk as much as possible? So in a sense, probably you have heard different words. So you probably heard vulnerability assessment, penetration testing, bug bounty hunting. So all of those techniques are ways of measuring risk. And management, it's the aggregation of all that information to try to make decisions, if that makes sense. So big companies, which when I mean big companies, I mean banks, I mean telecommunication companies that have thousands of assets, thousands of machines around their companies. It's super hard to keep track of every single asset, every single boom. So what low maturity companies, and I'm going to go forward in a bit, take this as gaps, right? When are you finding out about your vulnerabilities? When was the last time you found a vulnerability in what you were working? So in big companies, they have this kind of mentalities, and I would, they're not everyone the same, but I will go through each item. So we have companies that are under compliance, which is our banks, for example, or fintechs that are working under regulations for specific management of information, such as credit card companies. So they, in some countries, like in Argentina, they are forced by regulation to do an annual penetration testing. An annual penetration testing, it's basically a set of people who are trying to understand without having too much information about the infrastructure of a client, find weaknesses, exploit them, and create a report where are all the vulns that were used to create an attack and or use it as an attack vector to get access to the company. But what happens with when I say annual penetration testing? That means that once a year, they realize all the vulns they had. So you are not really aware when that vuln was introduced to your system if you're not keeping track. So it's like going to the dentist once a year. If you, the more you go, the better. So you get the same with the quarterly vulnerability assessments, which are maybe a lighter version of a pen test. It's basically using security tools to measure risk. But again, every 4 months, you have this understanding of what it's being exposed what's the level, so you can do sprints and fix it. That's maybe the more common. But now we are getting into a more interesting times where automation is taking over, and we're creating ways to, at the end of the day, create more time for the people who are in charge of doing this. So we have more what it's called monthly scanning or continuously scanning, which is this the same idea from some aspects of pen test and some of the aspects of pool management, which means, can we create baselines of scans? Can we measure ourselves to create this kind of a level of information where I can understand what's my posture and if I'm in risk of getting infected or someone taking access to my information? I don't have the chat, so I'm going to open the chat. So if anyone has the question, give me a second. Um, great. Oh, it's the Jamboard. So one of the things that for me it's important for you guys to understand is that security is dynamic, right? You're easygoing in the street until someone takes your phone. So you were feeling safe until something bad happened. And security, I'm not going to lie, it's a little bit like that. You have, imagine if you saw the news a couple of days ago, there was this super specific bug in Windows that allow attackers without username password to basically jump access to the most important machines in Windows systems, which are the domain controllers. So if you were an admin and in a company and you realize you have this news of this super important bug affecting your most critical computers, you will understand this dynamic that over time we realize that what we thought it was secure, it's not longer is. So having this workflow in place can help you understand what are you going to do when you detect a vulnerability. Any questions so far? I probably taking too far, so but my main idea is so you can understand a little bit of what's the management, what are the risks, and what are the people involved around this environment. Don't get me wrong, there are many sides in security. There are people who fixes, there are people who automate, there are people who break. So if you're interested in anything, there should be a security analog role for what you're looking for. There are people who specialize just in car security. There are people who just focus in DevOps security. So it's super important to understand that this dynamic of security allows the creation of many, many new roles and specialties to scale our efforts in the security scene. So I took this graph because I think it was super important to understand what's a vulnerability management maturity model. So if you're by yourself developing your own tools, and you probably have clients and you are starting to develop, you probably are on the left side of this management because you are dealing with security maybe in a more reactive way. When you see an advisory, when you see a notification, you force an update. So you probably are between level 0 and 1, which is some manual work. It's done either by a notification of a vendor, or maybe one of your dependencies has a warning saying, hey, you should probably change me. But then when you start like thinking about security, it's when you start like leveling up, which means is everyone can have a vulnerability, even a security company like ourselves. So the first that you might do is start scanning, which are different tools. Especially there are a lot of open source tools that, as Sacco said on the beginning, there are tools for cloud security posture. There are some cloud security for web. There is some specific for scanning the services that are exposed to the internet. Well, there are even SaaS services that allow you to scan the internet. So thinking on the problem is when you start like understanding that you need to use tools to have a better grasp, I think that's when you're leveling up. So most of the people that are already doing bull management are probably in the blue side of this graph, where they are more, they have in place some tasks, they have probably someone involved in their daily basis of security. So the management becomes the workload of managing this information. But on the beginning, you are doing basic processes. And I think after level 3, it's when you already have this test in place and you are basically trying to deal with it. Because imagine, I have seen people from large organizations that have thousands of assets that basically tell me, I have thousands of vulnerabilities, I cannot stop them. So at that day, you realize you have to prioritize and do a risk focusing. This risk focusing, what do I mean with risk focusing? It means that tools are great detecting a lot of things, but they're not great putting those bugs in context. And of course, there are many ways of use machine learning and a lot of fancy ways of doing classification of information. But normally, most of the companies have people, and that people need to create how you're going to triage that information, how you're going to rate each bug. So this is what are we going to talk a little bit today in order to do a double click and what you can do after this talk, what you can do with our software. But most important for me is that you start like thinking a little bit more in cybersecurity and how this is for me a really passionate topic. So if I put this in a book sign that says improving the security of your site by breaking into it, this seems too like 2020, right? It seems like a modern, but it's actually a paper from 1993. There was a security scanner called Satan, which is for the old people like me might remember. It was an open source security tool that created mayhem in the environment at that time that allow you to find and exploit vulnerabilities in NFS, in network file system systems. So this idea of understanding the impact of security in the impact of security by breaking in seems like a modern idea, but it's actually super old. So what we are trying to do is, what have we been doing wrong for the past almost 30 years that we're still tripping with the same stone? So when I saw the date of the paper, my mind was blown, because that means that most of my career, I have not been doing my best. I have been pretty good pointing out problems, but not solving it in scale. So part of the mindset behind developing a software is understanding that there is a big problem and you might have ways of reducing that problem or trying to be more manageable. So the main question is security still in 90s? I know that the 90s are now in fashion, but what has actually changed from the security tooling, the security methodologies? And that, I think, it's the main challenge that cybersecurity professionals have these days, which is, can we level up? Can we evolve from what we have been doing for the past 20 years? And part of that evolution, I would say, thinking security from a different perspective. So to have an understanding of what are we talking now, it's that vulnerabilities are ways where threats are manifested. So the best explanation for that point is, people don't know they have a vulnerability in their system or they got hacked until their screen gets black and there is this sign saying, you better give me a couple Bitcoins, if not, your company and your computer's information is going to get encrypted. So you might not know where that threat got into, but probably a vulnerability was used to execute that specific piece of malware through that. So it's important to understand that vulnerabilities by themselves might seem not important, but sophisticated attackers can use more than one vulnerability that might not be important to manifest themselves within your computers. Also, there are a lot of tools, but if you run all the tools and you do no remediation, it makes no sense, because yes, you will understand what's your posture, where your vulnerabilities are detected, and maybe you can put in more time into fixing it. But understand that using all the tools in the planet are not going to make you more secure. So sometimes what I suggest is try, and we are today, if the time allows, we are going to play with a couple, but it's important that maybe you take one and create output that benefits your daily workflow. So again, this will change a lot on the maturity where you're working, or if you're starting, or if you're working with somebody else, or if you're by yourself. So that understanding of the maturity and how tools work in your daily basis is super important. Again, it's super fun also to break your own site, even if in 1993 someone said it was cool back then, it's still cool in 2021. So one of the problems when you're actually working in a professional environment of security is that you are, if you're in cybersecurity, you are the carrier of bad news. You are the ones that on Friday say, hey, I saw the release, it's beautiful, that's awesome work, but actually we have a problem. There is this bug in this library that we need to fix, so we need to roll out a hot fix. So that creates friction, and that friction between engineering and ops from people's security, I think it's the lack of incentives that each area has. We have to understand that security tooling, all these things that we have been discussing from the beginning of this session, they live within the machine of the testers. They would live within that platform. And sometimes engineering or operations teams don't have the same visibility as cybersecurity teams of what's the big picture. That, along the duplication of phones, creates this alert fatigue of having so many information that most of those bugs might not be interesting, or might not be even a true vulnerability. There might be a false positive. So that creates a lack of trust within engineering and ops teams. Besides, you don't have coverage, you don't have metrics, you don't know how many computers do you have. So this is maybe the worst of what I see in operations. And this is a question for you, for everyone. When was the last time you were dealing with a vulnerability, and how? I'm interested in seeing when was your first encounter with a vulnerability. It was something you saw, it was someone reported to you, it was something GitHub mentioned in some of their automated scanning. It's important to understand that vulnerabilities are going to arrive, and probably they are currently in your system. So take a time to think about how I am secure and what I'm doing to be secure. And then we have great inventions, which I think this is the best image I found on the internet. So I just put DevSecOps on top of it, which is most of the problems we are dealing with infrastructure, with operations, are now taken by DevOps, which is basically developers taking operations by running infrastructure as a code, or by creating cloud native infrastructures where you can replicate and you can find bugs within code rather than on human implementation. DevSecOps is not someone that it's not involved in this process, but when we call it as DevSecOps, it's maybe a more intentional way of actually adding security tests within the cycle of development. And as I said before, there are so many tools that we can integrate and we can see. So DevSecOps can be a way out of the problems I was mentioning before of creating friction with engineering. So this is kind of what we are trying to achieve at Faraday. So what would happen if you can automate daily tasks or automate and create your own pipelines? What would you do if you can transform the output of your favorite tools and how you work in a single place so you can take decisions? So basically, Faraday has become a way of aggregate many sources of information from different perspectives into one place, normalized, and then once it's normalized on the platform, provide an awesome API so you can create your own inventions, your own dashboards, or use it as a part of a stack to do more things. Especially, we are seeing that every single day there is a new tool to test a specific type of vulnerability, a type of vulnerability class. So it's difficult to keep up. So in part of this experience of actually doing penetration testing for a long time and doing application review, which is the professional way of testing for the security of computers, we realized that a good way to save time and actually make people work better was to create this platform where we can basically normalize the information from different inputs to create a decision. So everything that I'm telling you here, it's right in our GitHub, in the lines behind, underneath the slides. You can go out and check out and start like using it. I don't think we have the time to do more of a webinar workflow. So I'm going to show you a little bit of the platform. We're going to play a little bit so you can have a better understanding. And definitely my data will be shared so you can ask me anything. But this is kind of an overview of what we're doing. So we have this repository of plugins where we have more than 75 integrations from proprietary tools to open source tools. And we also provide the boilerplate in order to create, if you have your own test, if you have your own things set in place, you can use this to orchestrate and to visualize the information from those tests. So these are some of the possibilities that you can do with Faraday. So you can aggregate from different sources, as I show you on the graph. So you can use many tools, but you can also integrate from bug bounties, pen tests, you name it. Actually, I think the most important for me is give you all the freedom to integrate us and create your own workflows to understand and have a better understanding of your security. So by the idea of creating a central place to manage information, you can create a workflow. So all vulnerabilities are now processed using the same workflow. By using triaging, which is basically the manual understanding of vulnerabilities, that is going to create a high signal output. Then you have accountability and tracking of all the vulnerabilities detected. Yes, of course, you might not have the time to fix them all, but sometimes it's important to when was first detected, by whom, and by what. So having this accountability and tracking of all wounds, it's super important because if you know that, you can create service level agreements, which means for how long I'm going to wait until a vulnerability is fixed. What about if it's critical? Should I wait now? Can I wait more than a month? So that understanding, it's where we are helping with our platform. Also a good way of creating less friction with engineering is to create projects so everyone can understand what it's being done, and not on a Friday night, and more over the sprint. So you can actually do this kind of project, and this is where I think Faraday is super useful, where you can give everyone the access to either a dashboard, could be a more JSON approach where you can automate, or something a little bit more interesting where you can create alerts right from the output of the tool. I know I have been talking for far too long. You probably want to see the tool, so I just want to close a couple of things. Our new clients are busy engineers. So people in cybersecurity are now trying to create ways of giving engineers some free time. So at Faraday, we know that people who are using us are trying to do a better work. So that's why we have so much effort with the platform. We actually had a release this week. So we are truly know that we are helping people. So feel free to try it and to see it. I'm going to show you a little bit of what are the possibilities that you can do with Faraday. But hopefully, I hope you start like doing some security stuff. I don't know if you have any questions so far, Sako, if you have something.
Yeah, I think it's going great. Yeah, we are good. And once after demo, I think we will have a short break and go to Q&A. And we have the GitHub issues, where we're gonna track, and we'll have live questions plus GitHub. But I have many, so let's.
Perfect. I just giving a talk over the computer. It's nice, but sometimes I want to see people, so that's why I like to ask. Yeah. So part of the benefits that you can do, it's basically you can put everything on a single place, and then you can do a plan, which is what most companies don't have. It's what you're going to do when this happens, and probably it was going to happen quite soon. So to understand the maturity of the people who are using us are probably companies that already have some security people working in. So it might be a consultant firm that similar to companies that find vulnerabilities in their daily basis. There could be bug bounty hunters, which are people who get paid for bugs that have some security implications in companies that are signed up in different programs. I can talk you that in a bit. Then we have the certs, which are most of the countries have some sort of team that is going to react upon the emergency of a vulnerability in a platform. So they use it probably as case management. Then we have internal security teams. They use us for regression testing, maybe for scanning. And then the last, where I think we are getting used a lot, it's in DevSecOps to keep track of the results of different pipelines. So Faraday, beyond all, it's a super flexible platform, super friendly for developers. We are working a lot on trying to make it easier, but sometimes we create tooling so everyone can make their work easy. Among of the things that I want to mention on things that we do, we have a set of plugins where we can integrate most of the tools that are out there. But we also have what we call agents, which are basically runners. So in Faraday, we have this sort of APIs and different communication methods. But if you just want to do a scan, we created these sort of agents that can run multiple executors. So in this case, we can have kind of a Docker with one agent and many executors. We have the first icon, it's SAP, which is a security proxy that has some scanning abilities. Then we have another open source tool, which is called OpenBAS, that it's a scanner, mainly a network scanner, that it's going to find vulnerabilities within your exposed services in your computers. So it's a great way to provide some sort of risk measurement within a company or even your home network. And the last but not least, we have Nmap, which is the favorite tool for everyone to understand which services are being exposed of a machine. So having these tools by hand and using it in combination with our agents, you can automate all the things. And that means these are great tools, but are great while you're using them. So you can, by automating, you're creating kind of a baseline and saying, I know that you cannot kill all the single bugs because there is not enough human effort to achieve it, but definitely you can kill the low hanging fruit, the ones that can be exploited easily. And also another thing is, if you're not using our agents to automate the scanning or the ingestion of vulnerabilities in a central place like Faraday, you have our API, and we have Swagger docs, so you can go there and test it out, see all our endpoints. So I'm going to stop this presentation for a bit, and I'm going to jump within the platform so we can play, and you can ask me questions meanwhile. But the next thing that I'm going to show you, it's our platform running in my computer. I'm not covering the install steps, but if you head to our GitHub, you can follow along and it should work. And if it doesn't work, since it's open source, you can open up an issue and say like, hey, Fede, there is a problem over here, and we'll do our best to fix it. So I'm going to switch from the presentation into terminal. So in this computer, I have opened up a virtual end. So if you go to Faraday, I follow these instructions, so how to follow the repo. And Faraday, I haven't discussed the technical side, but it's a Python application. It's in Python 3. We have been doing this for the past 6 years, 7 years. We use PostgreSQL as a backend for a database, and in the front end, we are using Angular, and now we are going to use React. We have been working hard, so stay tuned for that. So by just running this, you're basically pulling from the 2 repositories, and you're going to create the server where it's the information being managed and authorized, and then you will have the front end, which is the second repository where you can install the project. So once you have this done, I would need just to start the server. So you can do this by running the following. And this is going to start a local server within my computer, and everyone who is within my network, if he has the credentials, he will be able to access. So most of our customers, they run this within their company premises, but we are seeing in a more common way that companies are using this platform also to create dashboards or to integrate with different systems such as Kibana or Grafana. So there are many ways of using the platform. So the first steps, I would say, it's just you are going to connect to Faraday. I'm going to I'm logged in, and this is basically Faraday. And within Faraday, we have this concept of workflows. So a workflow, I'm going to create one is like Go1, and a workspace could be an engagement, could be a project, could be a company. But it's basically a folder where you're going to store information. So information within this workspace, it's related to a single entity or a single effort. So we have a way that where you can use this workspace, sorry, as a one-time project, or it could be a long-term project where you're keeping track of all the information that you have. So the first that I'm going to do is just create a project. I'm going to get in, and what I'm seeing right now is I have empty workspace. There is no information. There is nothing currently. So what we're going to do in the next few minutes is just load a little bit of information, treat that information, classify it, show you a little bit of the tweak and perks, and then we can move on to the questions. So the first that I'm going to do is I'm going to import a scan that I have done to make it easier. I have done it with a couple tools, but sorry, wrong button. So I'm going to pick up this file that I have from here. So I would say is this, and I'm going to put open, and I'm going to upload. So meanwhile, these uploads, you will see in this screen where the server is running that we have detected a report, and in 13 seconds we have processed it. So if I just reload this, now I have this first importation of vulnerabilities. Again, this set of vulnerabilities I created for today, especially to make easy to understand how you can use Faraday and not to play too much with the tools that we can do it later. So what I have done is I have scanned specific type of vulnerabilities that I thought were interesting for people who are connected into startups. The vulns that I'm showing here are misconfigurations or some files that you might forget while you're doing development. It could be that you put exposer Git folder in the web server and someone can take that folder away, or it could be just a Docker compose file that it's also on the web root and someone can see that information and use that information to grab the secrets of that file. So this idea of scanning means that you can find for a lot of mistakes at a single time, and then you can make a decision of what to do with those vulnerabilities. So in this case, I'm going to select all the vulns. Sorry, I'm going over here. So I'm going to select all the vulns, and I'm going not to erase them, but to treat them all as default, because so all the vulnerabilities, when they start into Faraday, we treat them as false positive. The only difference that it's going to do is if a user creates a manual confirmation of a vulnerability. So in this case, I can go to this dashboard, and creating this filter allows me to say, okay, show me all the vulnerabilities. I'm going to reload the screen.
Yeah, I guess Fede, the battery goes low. I don't know if.
Yeah, I have the charger in a bit. Thanks for the heads up. Here it is.
I have a quick question also. This file you uploaded, what was the tool outputted this?
So this is Nuclei. So this is an awesome tool from Project Discovery. It's also an open source tool. And they have created this kind of a community powered vulnerability scanner. So each test are created by the community, and this community, it's the pen testing and the bug bounty community. So they create super nice regression tests. And since I thought this was an open source community, my idea was using everything that I can grab from the open source world, so you can be right out implementing it. So yes, this output that I'm currently using, it's from this tool. You can download it. It's in Go. It's super interesting, and I think it's super powerful. So head to this guy's project. I think it's super clever. For us, it's yet one other scanner that it's focused in one thing. So the output of this tool can create something similar. So from here on, I can take a vulnerability. I can say, I think this is more of a high. I think this is super simple to fix. And I have access this specific website, and it's something real. So I can confirm. So if you have on your daily basis just classifying some sort of vulnerabilities, you can start creating dashboards for people to focus only on the important things. So if I go back to the dashboard, I would see that I have a total of 246 boons. But if I only show the ones that have been triaged or have been confirmed by myself, I will see that there is only 6 boons. So by having the information within the platform, that allows me to do many things. Okay, how many other boons like this one there is? So I can click over here and I can take the confirmation out. So give me, sorry, I can take the confirmation out, or I can search for each parameter. So it could be the host name where it's vulnerable. It could be the port where it's vulnerable, or it could be the name of the vulnerability that we're looking for. So I'm going to take out the confirmation tag, and I'm going to find, give me all the boons that have found this specific bug. So in this case, it hasn't worked. I don't know why. I'm going to try. Okay, there is this bug. I think it's this. Okay, there is a bug in over here, so I'll fix it later. But one of the ideas is that you can find the same information within the platform. Sorry, I messed up. So in this case, everything that it's in the service HTTPS, I can access it. So this is one way of managing information. And the other thing is how you can do retesting. So I'm going to go back to the dashboard, and I'm going to go inside manage. Our front end has some limitations. So part of the things that we're doing is migrate the whole front end into a new front end. And that's why some of the errors you're seeing is that because we're deprecating this front end. So I'm going to close here. Okay. So once I have this information on the platform, you will see that I have a status, right? So it could be an open status, and that means that the vulnerability is live. It's being detected. So let's say you fix it and you take this effort of going to this opr.startup XYZ and say like, okay, I erase this exposed Git disclosure. So what you can do is saying like, okay, I'm going to select these ones that have been fixed, and I'm going to change their status into close. That means only close boons. It means that it has been fixed. So if I had some automation in place, which means that I would scan for the same vulnerabilities, as you can see, I have 3 close ones, and I'm going to re-import the same file, which is this one. And it doesn't matter that I'm uploading the same file. It could work with the same scan, but for time constraint reasons, we're just focusing on the importation, the manual importation. I'm going to show you a couple of ways to import information as well. But once I run the same scan, you will see that some of the boons are now marked as reopen. So if I just take that out, it's like, oh, I have one reopen. I can click on the reopen, and 3 of the boons that I have rescanned were detected at the time of the scan. So once you have this, it's like, hey, I have 3 boons that you mentioned that were fixed, but I had just saw they were not fixed. So you can download into a CSV file, and then you will have the CSV file, and from there on you can import this information to a new workspace, or you can create a new project out of it. Also, you're keeping track of all the information from host or credentials. So you can have the host and the exposed services, which are the host names, and basically the one a one shop, as it's called, where you can keep track of all the information. For example, I have 34 exposed HTTP services, and I can click over here and I can have all the host names that are being exposed under which IP, and this allows me to create lists and create automation lists so I can go and have a better understanding of a particular network. And you probably are thinking, okay, I like this graph. Maybe you can drill down the information, but there is something also interesting if you like security, is that, and let me present a little bit. You can start like creating this kind of a life cycle. Well, you can set the severity, you can treat the status of the vulnerability, but also you can add evidence. So you can upload pictures to the bones. But this is what I also think it's interesting. You can use our command line tool, so you can talk to our API and you can use it in your automations, in your scripts. So everything that you saw on the front end, it's being exposed by the API. So also Faraday CLI, it's a Python application. You can install it just using pip3 install Faraday CLI, and you will get it. In my case, I'm going to open a new screen, and I have over here Faraday CLI. When everyone's watching you type, it's where you messed up. So in this case, I'm connected. I'm going to run auth. It's localhost. The default username is Faraday. I'm not going to tell you my password yet, if I don't forget it. Well, and in this case, if this happens, you can run a command called Faraday manage. And Faraday manage, if you are using the platform and you forget the password like myself, you can just change the password. And I'm going to change the password. I don't know why I'm losing focus on my terminal. I change it.
Rico, do you have also 2FA, or are you planning?
Yes, we have 2FA, but since we are an open core company, we have that as a offering. So that's the other part of the discussion. It's how you create a business out of open source. But yes, we support LDAP, we support Okta. So yeah, the more complexity you add, then we can also help you.
Nice.
But we are planning to add to the OTP basic auth for second factor in all our offerings. So stay tuned for that in the news release. So I just I resetted my password. I'm in. So this command line allows me to create. I can run either by interactive shell or I can run it as one-liners. So in this case, I have the workspace and I want a list of all the workspace. And these are the ones that we were using that I created. And I can also create something more like a dashboard. And so over this dashboard, what you can see, it's the different projects. So this project could be your projects, could be your applications, could be your company clients. A little bit of summaries, a summary of how many hosts, how many boons, the breakdown of the boons, but also what I think it's interesting is the activity. How many boons were created, how long ago, what are the severity. So you can, with one command, stay tuned of what's going on with that. But also there are many things. You can do something like, I'm going to select this workspace and select workspace, select, and I'm going to use go1. And I can also be something like Nmap, which is a command that it's on, and I don't have to leave the context to get this information sent. So a big part of what we're trying to do is that people can do their work without force feeding our implementation. And we know that there are great tools out there, but we want to provide a seamless implementation of connection within the tooling, the people, and our platform. So you can run things from over here, or you can, I'm going to hide you guys for a bit, which I'm not seeing over here. So you can run things like Nmap, or things like, I'm going to just run ping. And as you can see, I process the ping command, I process the Nmap. So if I head back to where we were working before, into the dashboard, you will see that in the activity feed, I just run Nmap and I found one host with 2 services. And this allows me a better understanding of what's going on, what I have worked, what I have run. And a big part of what we are trying to do with Faraday is creating ways where you can automate. So talking about automation, I can run the CLI with this, and I can do something like CLI stats, and I'm going to pick a workspace. In this case, it's going to be one, and I'm going to run severity. And you can create a better, again, a better understanding of what are the boons right from your terminal. We have other ways, of course, of showing information. The other would be like going to a boon, and I'm going to list the boons. And I have all the boons directly from here. So I can grab, for example, this one. And in this case, I can have, if I run help, I have all the boons, but also the services and the host. So if I go to host and I do a list, and in this case, I have so many information. So I do something like this, and I do host get that ID, and I would have all the information I have under the specifics of a word. So in this case, I'm treating these are the findings. So without having to go to a web UI, without having to do a lot of things, I can basically do, if I'm not mistaken, you can also do this. So by adding the -J, I have the JSON output where you have the time and you have information that probably we're not showing either on the web UI or in the console. So you can leverage this information to automate or consume it in something else. So I could go on for a bit. There are many things that you can do. One of the things that I'm probably short on time to showcase, it's the automation part, but I'm going to showcase just a little bit on top of what you can do. So One of the things that we have are these agents that, again, are open source. Everyone can create their own. We offer near 8 or 7 predefined agents. So if you run agents, from here you can basically make these agents connect to your Faraday instance, and from this CLI you can run them. So once you have created your security pipeline with a tool, then you can use cron and have this kind of a continuous scanning to scan, aggregate, put in this platform, and then you can treat that information. So even though that you might not have the time to go and click on every single boon, it allows you to take decisions and to measure yourself. So I'm going to head back to the presentation just to close, do some closing bits. I don't know how are we on time, but I think we're near the.
I think we're doing good. One question,
Okay.
like, thing you did, and in dashboards we should see it, and how, because Nmap we saw, but for the ping you run.
On the ping, I think it might not have taken one. I can check a little bit, but yeah, it should appear. So all the comments that are being tracked. So in this case, for example, as you can see, this is comment 14, and I'm going to take this out. Invalid filters. Let me take that out. So if I head back over here, and over here, I don't know why the ping didn't show. Probably it's a bug on our side. I have the Nmap. Since we switched to the new CLI, probably there's a bug how we are running the comments over there. So, but every single comment that we can run, we can keep track. So we know the actual creator of all the objects in the platform. So you can understand the root cause and who did when and what. We are not kind of a super accountable software where we need to keep accounting on the users, but we are trying to keep accountability on the vulnerabilities that are created. So tools like Ping or Nmap that are creating context, we can create, but sometimes what we are focusing more is mainly on the vulnerability side of things. So, yeah.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you.
Awesome. So a couple of things that I want to close down the presentation so we can are more free to talk. Is again, yes, you can use the CLI. You can have fancy dashboards within your terminal as well, but I want to give you a little bit of besides Faraday and the software. It's what's the philosophy behind this? It's like we understand that we cannot kill all the bugs, but we can definitely create a few. So have this idea of it's not only bull management what we're trying to do. It's not security. Sometimes it's hygiene. It's can we create the minimal baseline of security? I know that we cannot fully protect a computer, but we can definitely make it more expensive. I have seen bugs as easy as exposing the AWS credentials in a website so everyone can have access to the account. So doing some sort of thinking of security is going to elevate the baseline. It's going to elevate, it's going to make it more complicated for people to hack you in. So I think we can elevate the baseline by automating most of the things. I think it's going to create a lot of output and it's going to be difficult to measure, but definitely having a way of measuring, it's important. We are seeing every day, as I was telling on the beginning, that content creation for scanners is difficult to scale. So that's why Nuclei, it's using people to create more tests. That's why companies that find vulnerabilities such as Nessus or Qualys, which are companies that are in the stock market, are implementing are putting a lot of money to create this content. So we have to understand that these are all efforts that are translated into maybe a single boon, maybe into having a more reactable output. But what I think it's important is to understand that a tool is not going to solve anything. Maybe not even Faraday by itself, but the idea that you start thinking of security and thinking security as an enabler is what we should think forward in terms of security. It's a culture, and a culture of taking your time to understand the risks, the threats, and what's your role within. So if I made you think on your creations, on your company network, on whatever, what's the status of security, I think I have uh, I'll be happy with my grain of salt. But again, security, it's something that we have to discuss every single day. There is a lack of people in the talent pool. So that's why I invite you all to start like thinking, what can you do in the cybersecurity world? Um, there is this need to automate many problems, and the problems are interesting. But first of all, security, it's a culture, and that culture has to be cultivated over time. Um, so I'm going to try a couple things more with the platform, but this is a little bit all for today. We can definitely repeat. I can rearrange with Suku, and we can do maybe if you want to do a more on hands training, or we can definitely do it. We can automate, and maybe the lost time for that I have done today, we can make it up by creating something like automating agents or scanning a little bit with the tools. So since we have a different kind of levels in today, I'm going to take more on talking on the talking points besides what we are doing with the platform, and talk about more in general of cybersecurity and the efforts companies are doing. I don't know if that's okay for you, Suko, but if not, I can go deeper in any of the tasks that I have talked during this session.
Yeah, I think it was really amazing. I think we can move to question. We have a lot in GitHub. So how you folks are feeling? How you, Federico, feeling? Do you want to take a short break, or?
No, I'm perfect. I'm perfect.
You're perfect. Okay, folks, and then we will just skip the break. Just go directly to Q&A. But
we can do a break if I suppose people want to go to the bathroom and stuff like that. So
yeah, let's then take 5 minutes break, and we will come back. We have a lot. Let's come back in 11:30, in 5 minutes 35. So, and we will.
Perfect. I'm going to stop share for a bit so I can watch the questions. A big part of my career has been done thanks to open source. Again, I'm from Argentina, Buenos Aires. I didn't have access to all the fancy tools. So thanks to open source, I was able to install Linux. I was able to start like trying tools as the one I mentioned on the beginning. Yes, I'm a little bit old, such as Satan. And I think Linux gave me the understanding of how servers work and then how to do things in those servers. So I think having access to technology, it's a great tool for curiosity, and cybersecurity is the king or the queen of curiosity.
Hey, so I guess we can go to questions, and we will start with the live questions.
How do you want to do it? Do you want me to read the
sharing your screen from GitHub?
Okay.
I think you can pick the question that you're using. Yeah.
I'm going to share the screen, and I'm going to head to the GitHub. I think it's this one.
Yep.
So, well, you see the project. If you see the organization, which is Infobyte, that's the name of the company. You can see all the projects. We have done things related to Faraday, but also we have all other security related ideas. So the first question from Kana K22 is like, how one can get started in cybersecurity. Any good resources? Well, there is a bunch. And I think how you can get started, well, you are getting started right now. Too late to inform you that 43 minutes ago, you got into the cybersecurity, and there is a lot of resources. There is a lot of content. But if you ask me where to start, I would start using YouTube. There are many, many content creators that are talking about security in a more modern way, that it's not something that it's actually where you can learn and start doing things. So if you were able to create an issue in GitHub just to ask this question, definitely there is something picking on you on what's stopping you from starting into security. Security has many, many specialties, but the first of all is trying to understand how things work. So if you do some development, if you do some network, whatever you do, there is some content of security that you can find. So I would suggest go out and find Live Overflow, which is the username on YouTube, and sign up. Find resources from your country. In Argentina, we run Eco Party, but in Brazil, there is a conference called H28C, which is Hackers to Hackers. In India, there is a conference called NullCon. In different parts of Europe, there are initiatives and groups and communities that are focusing every single day in security. So how to start in cybersecurity, what you would like to secure, and think it from that perspective, and it's going to open up a world of resources. But yeah, go to Live Overflow on YouTube, and definitely you're going to have too much fun seeing it. And then Danners over here, Danners, it's a great player of a platform called Hack the Box, which is kind of a model scenario for networks that you can go and solve puzzles, and that involves hacking those computers without any problem. So there are try Hack Me, Hack the Box, Over the Wire, Root Me. Well, Danners mentioned them all. Definitely go and pick a Google search for those platforms. Most of them are free, or maybe they have a paid tier, but you don't need to start. And to sum up how you can start into cybersecurity, I think you can start by breaking things and trying to break things. So that's the best way to, when you break things apart and then you try to assemble, that's a little bit of cybersecurity. Any tips, advice for beginners? Would be nice to have one for you. Well, thanks. Advice for beginners, it's patience. You will find more information on how technology is defined and how technology is constructed than on security itself. Sometimes security goes right on the problem, but sometimes it's interesting to see why that happened on the beginning. And an advice that worked for me when I was starting was find someone who had the same interest as myself. Sharing that interest, that human interest, it's going to the gym with somebody else. You know, it's when you're lazy, Sacco is going to call like, hey, I have tried this and that didn't work. That creates momentum, that creates sharing. And as any topic, in my case, I love security. I pick security. So find someone, you're in the right place. You're meeting people who want to start as well. So share that venue of knowledge with the people that surround you. And you can have access to people like me, like Sacco, to everyone else. If you send a DM, probably we'll answer you right away and we'll point out. So find someone, ask questions, and get motivated to get curious. There is not a formality to be a cybersecurity engineer. You can break things. You can get US money by reporting problems. There are many ways. But yeah, with those three, you're going to get far. Not a question, just a small feedback. Great session. No idea most of the stuff you talked today. Got so much to learn. Me too. So Stuti, yes, thank you. Thank you for me. It's sharing what I love. So love to have you on a Saturday hearing me. Then we have Fisabag says, if we have so much security issues in the open source or the internet, then why we shifted to online platforms before the pandemic? And so we should frequently change password and accounts. And what's cryptography? Wow, that's a bunch of things, but I'll do my best answering you a couple things. There will always be security problems. There will be always security problems, and thankfully, we have jobs for our lives. But we have to understand that security, again, it's made by humans, and we tend to mistakes. We tend to trust in things, and sometimes those things break. That's why security it's constructed, and technology is constructed in layers. So it's not a feature, it's a set of features that can mitigate the impact of a bug. They can restrict something from being exploited. But yeah, we have been using the internet and the systems for a long time, and we come from a really worse scenario. So I think nowadays, yes, there are a lot of problems, but we're talking about security. When I was a kid, the idea of working in security, it was kind of a dream. You would be either a developer or a system admin, and that was it. There was not security as we are discussing it right now. So we're moving forward. It's urgent on the changes, but we have to take it easy on the results. So I think we're heading that. Yes, your information might be in danger when it's online. That's why as users, we need to reclaim privacy and transparency for companies. But at the end of the day, we're doing security of businesses, and those businesses need to work in order to have secure businesses. So that's why we shifted online, because people need to survive in a way, and we need to do our best to protect that intention. So again, security should be an enabler, not a stopper. So it's not about pulling things out from the internet, it's how we can be more secure and measure risk as fast as we can. How much you should change your password? Well, more than frequent if you ask me. But as Suko said, use second factor authentication. Most of the emails, platforms, with your phone and your password, it's difficult, people can get in. What is cryptography? It's a lot of math that makes things unreadable for people who don't have all the variables. But if you're interested in more into cryptography, there are many resources way better than myself. I'm not specialized in cryptography, but it's a whole planet. Question from Danners. It's possible to run automatic scans, or you're thinking to add it up? Well, you can use our community version, Danners, and run a cron or just a script. Since we're open core in our different offerings, we do have a scheduler. Another things that I think from Rassi, which I think super interesting, and that's something that we're working on it. Are there any recommendations in the report on how to fix vulnerabilities after checking with Faraday? Definitely. So Faraday, it's an aggregator of information. And part of our journey of the vulnerability is how we can enrich. So in terms of our roadmap, something that we're planning is there are so many tools that are great out there, and keeping track of all them, it's hard. So that's why at Faraday, we first focus on the aggregation of vulns and the duplication of vulnerabilities. And the next step for us is to showcase the best remediations for those fixes. So we can minimize or at least reduce the time from discovery to remediation. If we can put the right information to the right people, that means the developers not talking about all the problems, but hey, you need to change this line, or this function is a problem, or small things, we can create this better recommendation. So something that Faraday has that I didn't show you is over here, we have a knowledge base. So this knowledge base allows me, currently I have everything empty on resolution, but you can create your own write-ups. You can import them from, there are some commercial databases, or something as simple as, you know what, I found a vuln in this Grafana, and this is a low issue, and I can create this GOP ticket, put the description, and I can also put the resolution. This is how you solve this problem. And once you create, in this case, I just created one vuln, and I'm going to sort it by date. So just by doing this, I'm going to find the last one. It's not on the comment 14. And I create manually. So again, I'm doing this. And I have this ticket. So in this case, you know what, this specific vuln, I think it's interesting because, I don't know, I wrote it so I can create a template. I have created this template. And so next time I am going to do it, I can pick a different host, go over here and create this GOP ticket. And I would have all the resolution loaded up on Faraday. So if you're start like treating this as your resolution database, you can, every day that you spend on the platform, and it's a way to concentrate all the remediations in one place. But again, you can go out and buy that remediations from other parties as well. But our part now is to enrich all this information. That's our next step in this journey of Faraday. I'm going to continue with the question. Great question, though. I love that one. How to contribute to the project? There are many ways. There is a typo in our README if you try to open up Faraday and you follow the instruction, there is one typo on setting up the virtual M for the Python. When we do that, you can create a pull request, but there are many ways to contribute the project. For me, the most important is to see it working, or what are your implementations. So using it, integrating with your pipelines or your security test, it's for us a great way of contribution. Just clone the repo, try it, find a bug, or build a new integration or a new agent, and we will do our best to support your efforts developing. And if you become super friendly, we can invite you to our Slack so we can help you even more. So we are pretty close with Sacco. Every time that you want to do something, just let me know. I'll try to help you navigate the waters. We have another question that is from Atarva. I hope I said that username well. What are red, blue, and purple teams? That's a great question. So security as branches, there is a lot of things, right? There is cryptography, there is some operations, firewalls, logic, but when we talk about risk assessment, we have a way of sorry, I have noisy neighbors. So red and blue and purple teams are basically the hats, as we call it, of risk assessment teams that have different roles. So red teams are a group of people who are going to find vulnerabilities in an organization in using different techniques and methodologies. It could go from exploiting a vulnerability that has been found on the main website, or trying to break in and steal the backup drives. So it's to be the offensive team in the company. So many of the pen test firms treat their efforts as red team. It comes from a military description, being the offensive team or the attacking team or the invader team was the red. The blue are the people who are in the defense, who are seeing within the company how to react to these initiatives, how to measure the problems, how to measure threats. And purple teams, it's the mixture. It's what you can learn from the red, what you can learn from the blue, and treat this methodology of breaking and fixing at the same time. So resources to get into roadmap and DevSecOps for beginners. Well, depending what you're trying to accomplish, there are many things. I would suggest there is an awesome project that I really like called SemGrep. SemGrep, it's a type of scanner that finds insecure functions in different languages. It's like a super grep, but there is a database of problems that you can create baseline. So you don't mess up by putting your AWS credentials in a repo or public key. So a great way to start DevSecOps, I would say check out Clint Glibert's resources of SemGrep. I will put them into the chat, but it's a great way of start. See how you can add a little bit of security in your daily basis. That's the first step for the roadmap, I would say. What is regression testing? Regression testing is when you have been informed that you have something that you reported has been solved, and by means of automation or manual test, you can understand if what it's been informed, it's actually true, so you can go back. So regression testing would be this vuln has been fixed, and then you run the same scan, and that same vuln still appears. So regression testing, it's a way where you can automate this cycle and try to detect if a rollback, if whatever happened, doesn't create a old vulnerability issue that went away, come back. Some real world scenarios where you can use DevSecOps. It's creating these kind of layers of checks within your development cycle. And a good example, it's the management of secrets, how you manage the secrets of your code, like the password of the database or the API keys for a secret implementation. The idea is putting those secrets within the source code. It's super, it could be dangerous if you upload it in a public repo. So the first idea of DevSecOps is what can we introduce in an automated fashion that is going to prevent that many bugs arrive to the release stage of the vuln. So it's detect the vulns the earlier as possible within the context of a developer. How the agents work. So quick question, and I have it super over here. You can go to our documentation. If I don't know why it, well, it's not allowing me to move screens, but basically the agents work in this fashion. The agents are basically a dispatcher and executor. So you can run, it's a Python process that talks to our Faraday server that could run within your company, within your computer, or in our cloud. And that channel of communication is done using our service technology, which is basically WebSockets and a way of understanding when something is working or not and run those tools. So how they actually work, you can, we just released a paper on how you can implement them in your daily basis. So I would suggest I will put some links over there. It's possible to check the same web server again and compare reports automatically so that we should know which problems have been solved and which not. Yes, we can with the same way of regression testing. When we scan it in one way and we put it on the platform, then we can automate like closing all the issues, rescan it and see which ones are open. We basically do fuzzy hashing between the asset, the service port and the contents of the vuln. So if that didn't change dramatically, we are going to understand it's the same vuln with the same problem. So you can continue it back. So you can focus just on the reopened ones and not on the whole open. So the right process would be first, the open vulns, which are the ones that are confirmed. From the ones that are confirmed, you try and go to fix them. and from there on, try to recheck over time. We have some people that connect Faraday to an issue tracker or service desk, and they try to do that tango of talking to the ones who need to fix it and who need to track you. Any requisites to starting out in cybersecurity? Time, I would say, but no, there's nothing. I would say a prerequisite to start in cybersecurity. Anyone can start. You don't have to do the engineering or have something special. So it's work and passion and curiosity. I have known people in their late 40s who are starting now. I know kids that are 15 who are awesome breaking things. So it's not a secret recipe. It's mainly studying and when you're discovering. And I think it's a beautiful topic and super important nowadays. So yeah, there is no prerequisites. Find someone and start like tackling down problems every single day. What information do we oversee cyber risk and how to minimize them? So risks, at the end of the day, there is a way. What I think it's useful, it's to understand who are your enemies and what are the risks that you are trying to protect from. So if you're a bank, you're protecting money and information from your customers, and the secret on how the communication from your customers to your platforms is done. So that's a way to understand the risks. So the process of threat mapping, which is this idea of understanding what are the risks, it's a way to understand it. If you can understand which are the risks, then you can understand where can you minimize that problem. There is no such thing as super secure systems. So if you see any sign saying protected by military intelligence and people from, well, probably they have done a lot of things, but it's not, there is no secure software in the world. And that's why it's important. And that's why people like myself, you would see them complain when they are trying to add technology to sensitive technologies such as voting in e-voting, where there is a underlying problem of understanding how things work and the problems it represents. So how you can minimize them by dedicating hours and understanding what you're trying to protect and from whom. How to measure the effectiveness? Well, having metrics. So I think Faraday helps you with that by you have so a quick thing, right? But I'm going to do something like this. I'm just finding the over here. So in this case, I'm going to do the manage. I have the SQL shell. So if I run the SQL shell, I have access to the whole database. So if you want to build metrics, definitely you can start like doing, hey, give me all the vulnerabilities from all the projects that I have done in my life that have been discovered using Nuclei. So in this case, probably it's searching. We have a bunch on this server, but this idea of creating metrics and normalizing can allow you to, I would say, understand in a better way how your strategies are being done. I'm going to comment on, well, I don't know why it's not working. Maybe I turn off the database after I did the test. Don't worry. But a good way to prove the effectiveness, I would say, have any kind of KPIs or metrics. How many hosts, how many booms per host do you have? And in 90 days after an effort, how many you have now doing the same? So how to handle and store, Norlana had all the questions. I like you. How to handle and store the information from third parties from its further protection. I would say, and if I understood correctly, I would say it's how you share information in a secure way. And there are that's the toughest question from all. There are ways of sharing information, but every time you involve a third party within your decision making, within your company, you have to deal with the risk of sharing that access and sharing that information. So of course there are ways of encrypting or modeling the information so you don't share all your crown jewel secrets, but it's tough to do it in a full custody way. There are ways of using tokenization, and I don't know if that what you meant, but there are ways to protect the information if you're involving third parties. If you meant third parties by saying attackers, well, that's a different story, and it's a game of cat and mouse all the time. Sir, thank you. How do we get to know when to take a training workshop on building security automation pipelines? When to take a training? Well, you will realize, because if you're talking about automation pipelines, it means that you're already busy. So if you think you're already busy, or you think you're going to be busy in a couple weeks, I would say now. Yesterday, it's always the same day to learn something about automation. Most of the things that security people do are not really difficult to make. I would say the challenge is how you're going to treat that information. So if you can automate a process to check your servers now, do it and start learning what to do from that output. There are many courses. There are many things in the open source world. There are many awesome paid and free trainings that you can attend. And I think DevSecOps, it's something is going to be here with us for the following years. It's not a fad. It's not a fashion. I truly believe in automation, so we can concentrate in more complex problems. And I don't know if I have more questions over here. I can check on the Slack, on the Zoom, I meant.
Federico, it was most of the question. It was so many questions from the community. It was, yeah, I hope you didn't get too much tired and we ran a bit over time, but I think it was really great.
No, I love to share my experience and my views. Again, I'm still learning, even though that I have been in this industry. I know that we need to evolve, and what I think I brought to this community, new people are going to bring new things. So every time that I can open up the book and bring people in, I know that it's going to make this industry a little bit better.
Definitely. And security is, as I mentioned also in the chat, it's like you need it front end, back end, DevOps, SecOps. You need security, and security as a culture. I really loved it because we call the term as a SAC, like SAAC, like security as a culture. It's definitely not that one or two security guy in the company is doing. It's more like collaboration. It's more collective effort, because if somebody, whatever, they compromise their password, it means they give access to the castle. So in that sense, everybody needs to understand it.
And it's a super, besides the technical challenges, and there is a strong need of new profiles. So the other time I read that the lack of talent is near the 5 million people. So there is always a good moment to start into cybersecurity, and definitely you're going to have a job as an intern, junior, super quickly, because teams need more passionate and talented people as yourself. So don't block yourself. If you like to break things, if you would like to go to your job with a sledgehammer and break things, security, it's your calling. It's about breaking to build better and build stronger. So it's definitely a good experience to make money, to learn how things work, and to have access to the best companies in the world.
Definitely. And I personally have a couple places that where I see that I'm going to use. Probably we will have more as a follow-up session or more I will reach you at, and we're going to definitely use it. And yeah, but it's a really good start to go and get on dirty, play this project and get back. You know, Federico is also in Slack. We also gonna, let me also quickly share. And so here is a Federico's details. So again, thanks so much, Federico. I know that we are running a bit over time. Sorry, folks who are late running. And thanks so much, Federico, for today's session. I think we can conclude for now, but again, and looking for more collaboration and contributions. And highly engaged for the folks to go check out the project, try it out. First thing is to be able to run it in your local host where the Federico showed a bit, and then come up with contribution. It will be great for you to start, because just learning and checking the courses is good, but doing is a different thing, game, and definitely I highly engage. Thank you so much again, Federico. Thanks so much, Nurlan, Rasim, and folks to join, and I think we should be good. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Sako. Thank you all from the Goop community. Thank you from all over where you are. I hope I made your day a little bit different. And you can find me at any of the contact list where it's now shared. Feel free to write me up. Hey, I tried it broke, or I'm reading this. What do you recommend? I'm always eager to share my resources. So thank you all. Muchas gracias. And I hope you have a great Saturday.
Muchas gracias. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Bye-bye. Ciao, ciao.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.